with a huge annual budget of anything between 120 and 150 billion naira, the lawmakers of the 7th National Assembly, of course, failed to pass vital bills, including, well, of course, they passed it, but of course, those bills never became law. That's to say, the fourth alteration to the Constitution. We also had, of course, the PIB, that is the Petroleum Industry Bill, which remains in the crucible, together with, of course, the amendment to the Electoral Act. Now, a number of resolutions were passed by the 7th National Assembly, but unfortunately, some of those resolutions were ignored by the executive branch. Now, the not too impressive performance of the 7th Assembly has sometimes been attributed to the fact that they spent little time in their plenary sessions, usually given the excuse that, they were at committee work or carried out oversight functions.
Now, some political observers believe that both chambers of the National Assembly, that's the 8th, have slowed down governance and have not provided the much-needed legislative backup to complement the executive on the change agenda. Now, will the 8th National Assembly meet up with its constitutional mandatory sitting days of 181 by the end of the first calendar year? Now, will the National Assembly live up to the mantra of change that endeared it to the people? That's the trillion-dollar question to be asked. And that's the thrust of our conversation on Good Morning Nigeria today. I'm Claire Delabu Abdulrazak. The pleasure is always ours having you join us.
Well, Claire, if you also recall what happened at the 7th National Assembly was wrapping up its proceedings, they passed a record 46 bills in a record time. Actually, that shattered the Guinness Book of Records. And the question stakeholders were asking was, if you had time to work on this bill for the past, why wait only for a particular day? And in a record time, just a matter of minutes, you passed 46 bills. What time did you have for proper reflection? Again, if anyone wishes to evaluate what happened in the 7th Assembly, the transaction on that day would be a very significant take-off point to say, listen, how do you manage your time as lawmakers? My name is
and if you recall, the then Senate President had assured, even just before the end of that legislative calendar, that the PIB bill will be passed. But of course, eventually it was not among the 46 that was passed in record time of 10 minutes.
Well, of course, as you said, a number of other bills were languishing by the time the 7th Assembly came to a close. I am Kingsley Osadolo, and I join Claire in welcoming you to today's edition of the program, which is live as always on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We have our newspaper review, business, and other segments in the course of the program. We're going over now to join Ronke Kolawole for the morning news.
Thank you, Kingsley, and welcome to the morning news. Despite an 8.70% growth in the real estate sector, Nigeria still faces a housing deficit of about 17 million units. There is a move of boosting housing delivery in Nigeria. Therefore, took center stage at an interactive session between President Muhammadu Buhari and officials of the Federal Ministry of Lands, Housing and Urban Development.
All Nigerians, particularly the underprivileged at heart, there was much after the provision of housing, not only provision of housing but affordable housing, social housing for the low income and lower medium income group of people. Those are the vulnerable groups that need urgent help from government. The ministry comes in because the ministry is in charge of all public buildings in Nigeria, all buildings belonging to the federal government. And we can provide free of charge drawings and other professional services to developers in the region.
While President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the Ministry of Communications Technology to work harder towards ensuring that the revenue potentials of Nigeria's information technology subsector are fully developed. At an audience with officials of the ministry, the President, however, insists that poor quality of services by telecoms operators in the country must be addressed.
The President was concerned about the quality of service that Nigerians are receiving regarding GSM and all telecom operators. We will try to explain why there are challenges with the quality of service, having to do with the issue of right of way, multiple taxation that is limiting the investment of telecom operators in this area. And the president offered that he will personally champion this. He's not opposed to its privatization, but want to know how the whole transaction was undertaken so that we can be sure as a government that Nigeria was really not shortchanged.
President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the appointment of Ahmed Lawan Kuri as the Managing Director of the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria, APCON. Until his appointment, Mr. Ahmed Kuri was the Group Managing Director of Enterprise Bank Limited. In a statement, the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Publicity, Femi Adesina, says the appointment follows the dissolution of the executive management team of the corporation. Also appointed are Kola Ayeyi, Eberechiku Uneze, and Aminu Ismail as executive directors of the corporation. The appointments take immediate effect. Meanwhile, the Group Managing Director of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation (NNPC), Dr. Ibe Kachiku, has stated his resolve to usher in a new dawn of transparency through the periodic publications of the corporation's financial transactions, while insisting that transparency must be the watchword of every staff in the new NNPC. Dr. Kachiku instituted this at his maiden town hall meeting with the staff of the corporation at the NNPC Towers, Abuja, said the new NNPC of his dream is a corporation anchored on the foundation of transparency, charging the staff to break away from the old culture and bring creative solutions to the numerous challenges facing the corporation. The GMD said with the kind of change he has in mind, the staff could not afford to continue with a business as usual attitude. Kachiku pledged to open NNPC's bid for public scrutiny. The city change in the new NNPC will be anchored on three key issues of people, processes and profit, adding that the people element is key to the success of the other two elements, which is the reason personal motivation is dear to his heart. President Petroleum and National Gas Fairness Staff Association, Francis Johnson, and his National Union of Petroleum and Natural Gas Workers counterpart, Igwe Achese, pledged the cooperation of NNPC's workers to achieve the federal government reform agenda for the corporation and the oil and gas industry. 142 internally displaced persons camped at Uhogwa, Ovu Northeast Council of the state, who have been united with their families, were at the government house where they were hosted by Governor Adam Oshomole to bid them farewell.
We have our Queen Restaurant good work today part and parcel of the community. Obviously, government continues to provide their needs.
I appreciate the governorship with the people that taking care of the children before I come.
We are enjoying to stay here. We are raised here. I don't like to go back again with them.
And not the judicial matters, experts in the nation's justice sector have expressed concern over the fate that is likely to befall the justice sector bills that were passed towards the end of the life of the 7th National Assembly. As a result, the Nigerian Bar Association is coordinating a response of stakeholders to inject new life into the bills for President Buhari to sign them into law.
Because we normally have a problem of having passed a bill. It takes long for the bills to be transmitted to the president. That is longer than the 30 days.
Whether the president can assent, whether they are still, they are not still, we'll get to that.
But in the event we discover some are still, if one can say it, then we have to go over to the drawing board, start all over.
If the president vetoes it, which National Assembly will pass it? Is it this new one or the old one?
Empowering women and eliminating all forms of discrimination have been identified as antidotes for combating poverty, disease, and stimulating the economy. This was the consensus of stakeholders at a one-day agenda-setting forum on the outcome of the African Regional Post 2015 Sustainable Development Goals organized by the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs in Abuja.
Ensure healthy life and promote well-being for all at all ages.
Access to water and sanitation. Women suffer a lot because they have to provide water for the family. So in a community without sanitation, access to sanitation, then that is a big crisis because nobody can live in dignity without water.
I also wish to encourage and improve community and women demand, allow the girls to go to school, give them empower them by education.
What plans do we have for the implementations of the SDGs? We don't want to be taking unawares, or we don't want in the next 15 years to come here and be telling stories.
In another news, the Federal Safety Corps FRSA says though its half-year report indicates a reduction in road crashes and deaths to 12 and 15% respectively, it is determined to meet the 2015 target of 20 and 30%. Corps Marshal Boboya Adewen stated this in Abuja at a briefing on the state of traffic and plans during the month.
Let me assure Nigerians that the Corps is making adequate arrangements towards the end of the year's special patrol operations, the Ember months, and confident that the roads will be safer for all road users, and also on our rescue in the source of ambulances downstairs. So with this, all our critical ambulance points will be fully equipped for this.
Similarly, the Nigerian Postal Service NAPOS says the Information and Communication Technology ICT has not affected its operations negatively. Rather, it has enhanced the mandate of the nation's apex postal services. Outgoing Postmaster General Ibrahim Mori Baba stated this at a valedictory briefing with the media in Abuja.
It's all about upgrading the institution to meet the current demands. Why I'm here now is to send the original copy of a letter to somebody. With IT, you cannot send the original copy unless you scan it.
I just collected a letter from the box sent to me from my village people. I just got it. Now, if I have actually wanted to get that with ICT, that is not getting there, how will I get the information?
ICT has added value to the post office all over the world.
And that is the latest development from our news desk this morning. We thank you for being there. We now go back to Kingsley and Claire for the continuation of the program. Good morning, Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Ronke Falawale, for the news this morning. We're taking a short break now, and thereafter we'll take our business segment.
Nice and to taste like an awesome ride.
My Fanta tastes like catching the biggest air. My Fanta tastes like
Fantastic! So what does Fanta taste like to you?
grab your Fanta flavor today.
Hey! Would you like some water?
It's cold, especially for you.
Which era are you living in? We have a fridge.
When everything else in your house is from the present, then why are your toilet cleaning methods from the past? Harpic all-in-one for you. Compared to other toilet cleaners, Harpic removes top stains, kills all germs, and removes bad odors. For a shining clean and fresh toilet.
Wow!
You should also take the Harpic
all-in-one challenge.
Introducing Dettol 175 grams family soap. Buy Dettol family soap for 200 naira and save 50 naira.
Stand up, such a day. Stand up, never give up. But on those days of trouble and care, make it take time. No more things. Stand up, stand up. Always a thought in 1 second. No sleep, no tension. I think we're counting down. Stand up, don't stand up. Stand up, and make it change. Stand up, alright. Stay happy always.
Right, thank you for joining us. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. It's reaching you live on the network service. And we're moving on now, and time for business news. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, in its 2015 Economic Report for Africa, cautions African leaders on trade policies negotiations. Now, Shehu Okuniyi has the details of these and more on business news.
Alright, let's talk business now. The United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, has cautioned African leaders on how to negotiate trade policies with other continents of the world. This is contained in the Commission's 2015 Economic Report for Africa. The report also urged African leaders to always consider the promotion of industrialization in negotiating any trade policy.
Trade and industry are like two sides of the same coin. And the main message of the report is to caution our leaders the way we negotiate trade. The way we do trade negotiation, trade policy is now like industrialization doesn't matter. So the central message is that we should do trade policy with the purpose of promoting industrial development.
Identifying challenges of doing business within the African region, the lead consultant of the 2015 Economic Report for Africa, Professor Olawale Bukola, said it is high time the continent began to develop infrastructure that would ease doing business in the continent.
It's like we are slow in integrating among ourselves. It's like now the world is asking us to move faster. And what we discover is that there are so many trade agreements that is going on. There is economic partnership agreement, NTA. There is also the issue of AGOA. Again, if we don't be careful, we will be more open to non-African than to Africa. That's what we are concerned. We want people to look within the region, within the continent, to develop, and then thereafter we can open to the world.
It is expected that if African countries increase trading with each other, it can trade fourfold higher than its current capacity. Now to aviation. Worried by the huge debt on it, the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, FAN, has given a 7-day ultimatum to all debtors, including airline concessionaires, to pay up. The final demand notice, according to the spokesman of the authority, Mr. Yakubu Dati, will expire on Monday, August 24th, 2015. He said FAN, at the expiration of the notice, will pursuant to a presidential directive be compelled to take necessary measures to recover the huge debt. In a statement, Dati said all affected debtors have earlier been communicated with details of their respective indebtedness to the authority. The affected debtors, where in doubt, are advised to liaise with the authority's Credit Control Department at its headquarters for reconciliation of the account within a period of this notice. And that's the package on the business news for now. Thanks for watching.
Right, next for us now, this is for us to take a look at the headlines in today's newspapers.
Alright, Dayo Toby is in. Dayo, thanks for coming this morning.
Thanks, Claire. Good morning, Nigeria.
Alright, so quickly begin the newspaper review. Take the Guardian newspaper, and it has the lead story on its front page. New Bakassi worries over identity 10 years on. But they say a writer to that story. No, we already have it, says Itagiwa. That's a big story there. And then there's this other interesting story just below the picture story there. I'm alive, though announced dead. Land grabbers peddle death rumor, says businessman. And you want to read all about it. That story continued on page 2. Quite a number of trending stories on the front page there. Anxiety in customs over who becomes new Comptroller General. And Buhari sacks AMCON chief. Chiko Obi appoints Kuru as successor. NNPC to publish financial transactions periodically. And Lagos residents groan under robbery and traffic gridlocks. Now that's these are some of the stories trending on the front page of the Guardian. Thank you.
Let's take the Daily Trust as our next newspaper. Daily Trust, below its name flag, has a headline, Confusion as Niger South gets 2 senators. Details of that story can be found on page 3. But the lead story says, Dogara raises House committees to 95. And the newspaper is, of course, attributing this to sources that are familiar with the composition of the committees of the House of Representatives. Now, you have a sidebar right there on the front page of the paper that makes some comparisons. It says, House of Representatives committees, there are 360 members of the House. There are committees under Tambuwa, that's the 7th National Assembly. There were 89 committees. Now, proposed committees under Dogara, according to Daily Trust, 95. The paper also claims that the sidebar that committees will drop 7 million naira quarterly and 2.66 billion naira annually. Now below that, of course, there's also a comparison with the U.S. House of Representatives. That members are 435, but they have 21 committees. That's on the front page of Daily Trust. Dogara raises House committees to 95, but of course there's been no formal announcement yet of the committees. Buhari sacks AMCON management. Details of that story can be found on page 3. And Boko Haram chief, 60 villagers killed in Yobe. And below, that's at the foot of the front page, you have a number of window headlines there. Customs without head after Abdullah's exit. Details on page 9. And Lebanon arrests wanted ISIS leader on way to Nigeria. That's on page 5. And Kachiko to open NNPC's books in September. That can be found on page 23, also of Daily Trust.
Okay, Newswatch Times is next, and it leads with this story. Buhari demands full report on Nitel sale. Buhari demands full report on Nitel sale. That's the lead story. But just coming up above that Newswatch Times caption, you find crashes. NCAA begins audit of airlines. NCAA begins audit of airlines. The story continuation page 4. And just below the masthead, coming below the picture story, AMCON management sacked, new MD directors named, and of course operators yet to deactivate invalid SIM cards. That's talking about the Nigerian Communication Commission. Anti-apartheid hero Desmond Tutu back in hospital. It's on page 11. And Kingsley and Bayer, just as students are preparing to go back to school, there's a story on the school fees coming on the inside page of this paper. It's on page 5. We might not see that. It's on a private university, Babcock University students to pay 3 million naira school fees. Well, school debunks claims, but there's a whole lot of this story on the inside page, is on page 5 for those that are interested in that.
Okay, let's take Blueprint as our next newspaper. Blueprint. Transparency. I'll publish NNPC's earnings next month. Again, it's attributed to the new group managing director, Kachiku. Details of that story can be found on page 6. Next story says Buhari orders probe of Nitel MTEL sale and directs ministry to generate revenue from ICT. Details of that story can be found on page 6. And also on the front page of Blueprint, visitors to Sokoto to provide valid identity. That's according to Tambuwa, that's the governor of Sokoto State. Details of that story on page 5. And Nigerians lost 2.6 trillion naira in 2012 flood disaster. This is attributed to NEMA, that's the Emergency Management Agency. And Buhari appoints Ahmed Kuru new AMCON boss. Clear?
Okay, leadership has a few stories on its front page. PNB demands detailed report on Nitel sale. It's a story running on some of the papers, most of the papers. And PMB, of course, is President Muhammadu Buhari, demands detailed report on Nitel sale. The details of that story you can find on page 5. And National Publicity Secretary of the All Progressives Congress APC, Elijah Lai Mohammed, and APC Chieftain Sam Ndaifa, of course, on the front page there, when Mohammed visited the corporate headquarters of the paper. Now, trending at the bottom, Customs Hospital best equipped in Nigeria. It's coming from Area 5, the details are on page 5. And Boko Haram shoots, drowns 150 in Yobe River. That's on page 4.
Well, yeah, let's take the New Telegraph. Some of the headlines that you read earlier are also to be found in New Telegraph. New Telegraph, above its name flag, 2 headlines there. Insecurity. Tambuwal bans lodging in hotels without ID documents. Insecurity. Tambuwal bans lodging in hotels without ID documents. Details of that story can be found on page 43. And helicopter crash, NCAA audits airlines. And back to the old ways, that's a special report on page 17. Now, the lead story says 150 drowned and killed fleeing Boko Haram. 150 drowned and killed fleeing Boko Haram. Details on page 2. And also on the front page there is a report of President Buhari directing the probe of the privatization of Nitel and MTEL. Let's just go to the inside pages of a New Telegraph and take a number of headlines that Fashola to federal government, that's on page 4. Fashola to federal government, don't joke with 2016 census figure. Don't joke with 2016 census figure, but it has a rider. Tinubu Ambode absent at ex-governor's books launch. And then also there on page 3, again that's page 3 of New Telegraph. Telcos their NCC and failed to deactivate 37.79 million lines. These are the inside stories that we're taking in the meantime from New Telegraph. Claire.
Alright, Vanguard and the Daily Sun, of course, leads with a similar story. It's a running story on other papers. That's the probe of sale of Nitel and MTEL. Both of them have the similar stories, but I'll just quickly take a few riders to that lead story on the Vanguard. The riders to that story: directs Communications Ministry to query transaction process, expresses concern over 4 service of telecom operators, resolves AMCON management, and probes how wanted terrorists got Nigerian visa. Or might that be Nigerian visa? APC leader Sean Fashola's book launch, that's the Vanguard. And then this particular story coming on the front page of Daily Sun is on ex-comedian Baba Salah. So we all know this very, very popular comedian. Ex-comedian Baba Salah, critically ill. That story is on page 11. It's on the front page of the Daily Sun, trending at the bottom. And then one other story: stakeholders load a power plant with a fresh 1,000 megawatts generation. That story is you can find on page 12. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, well, but let's go back to Bio. Some of the front pages we have are similar to the others. Leadership, for instance, talks about the probe of Nitel and then the appointment of the new managing director for AMCON, as well as, of course, other copies.
Yes, thank you. In fact, 2 of the papers are reporting about 150 people that have drowned. This incident happened in Kukawa. Kukawa is in Yobe State. The insurgents were said to have come over motorcycles and raided the village, and the people were scared, and unfortunately they ran into the river, and many of them got drowned. It's reported through the Agence France press. Related to that is that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is now issuing a query to Nigerian embassy in Lebanon to explain how one Ahmed Ansari got a visa to visit Nigeria. The man is reported to be on the wanted list of several nations for alleged terrorist activities. He was arrested in Beirut airport by Israeli Lebanese security men, and this will interest you. He was to come to Nigeria through Cairo. He had reportedly shaved his iconic beard. He had also undergone facial surgery to conceal his identity. He had also assumed the name of Rami Abdurrahman Khaled, but in spite of that, the Israeli security were able to pick him. Meanwhile, the Nigerian National Intelligence Agency has been directed to produce the details, and because this is a matter of concern. You will recall that about 3 or 4 months ago, the insurgency Boko Haram had declared allegiance to ISIS, and this gentleman is supposed to belong to ISIS. One other story that has dominated the papers is the alleged probe of Nitel. Actually, what happened was that details of the transactions that led to the sale of Nitel Intel for $252 million to NAPCOM has been demanded by the presidency. The permanent secretary, Minister of Communications, Dr. Tuju Olopa, after briefing the president, said that the president said he was not opposed to the sale, but wanted to ensure that Nigeria was not shortchanged in the transaction. The concern that the president raised, particularly about communication, was the quality of service of telecom operators. He also talked about hindrance in investment in the ICT, which has the potential to create jobs, and he also expressed concern that ICT potential currently at 10%, as it was briefed, was capable of growing up to 20%, and so something has to be done rapidly to improve the employment opportunities that will bring. Another story that is taking the front lead of ministers is the dissolution of the management of the AMCON. Many are casting it as sack, others have said the dissolution, but actually what happened was that the president approved the dissolution of the board, and in the process he has appointed a new managing director, the person of Ahmed Lawan Kuru, as the managing director of APCON. 2 other executive directors have also been appointed. One peculiar thing about these public agencies is that they have a tenure of about 4 years, some 5 years, and therefore it usually coincides with the tenure of changing of administration. So it will appear as if when one tenure is completed and a new one is to be appointed, it will appear as if there is a sack with a coincidence with the new administration. It may not be the same in all cases. Another one that is raising eyebrow is a petition that has been copied to EFCC by one Dr. Cairo Ziobo, urging President Muhammad Buhari to probe the Centenary City project. The petitioner has accused that there are fraudulent acquisitions of over 1,500 hectares of FCT land, and the project was coordinated by the Office of the Secretary of the Government of the Federation. So now it is suffice that the spokesperson for the former SDF says that the case is in court and is sub judice, therefore should not be probably discussed. Let me quickly also go to the issues that were reported yesterday. There were court incidences involving deaths. However, the deputy rector of Kwara Polytechnic has denied that there was no court activities on the campus of the Kwara Polytechnic, and no student of the campus was killed. He said they finished their exam on August 8th and they directed the students to vacate, and they all vacated. However, the police has confirmed that apart from the 30 arrests they had initially, 12 other persons have also been arrested and they will soon be charged to court. Meanwhile, the Department of State in Ilorin, the director, has visited University of Ilorin, and he has proposed that they want to adopt a biometric data configuration that will work with the university to help them eliminate incidences of fake students and other incidents that lead to cultism, and that will go a long way. Let me go to this human interest story that Claire reported. Renowned comedian Moses Abuja, popularly known as Babasala, was rushed to a hospital in Malaysia when he took ill on Saturday, and when he was brought back home, he had to be taken back on Sunday. But when his condition became critical, he was taken to University College Hospital in Ibadan. His son, Emmanuel Adejuma, says that Baba is responding to treatment and there is no cause for alarm. In fact, he said that in the afternoon on Tuesday, Baba asked for 100 years.
Well, let's wish him the very best. What if he's indisposed so that he recovers quickly. But the other story, this is politics, by the way. We didn't have time to discuss it, Bayo. Former governor of Lagos State launched his books. That's the books on his tenure, and he said that his successor and his predecessor were absent at the book launch. That's I think those who read body language will and his predecessor. But his predecessor sent a representative. But the report was that he was. And the papers are also speculating that his brother governors, even the APC folks, they didn't attend. One of these Stuff happens, the saying goes. I would like to thank you for being with us on the review segment of our paper today.
Thank you for having me.
Today. We see you tomorrow. All right, let's Good Morning Nigeria. We're taking a short break, and when we come back, we'll proceed with our principal issue for conversation this morning, which is, of course, what the National Assembly is doing, going on vacation regularly.
Germs that cause flu, diarrhea, typhoid, HIV type 1, Dettol does. Dettol provides 10 times more protection versus healing competition. Dettol is the #1 selling antiseptic liquid proven to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs. So why take a risk with your loved ones?
Stand up, never give up, but all those days of trouble and care. Make it take back up, no more things, stand up, always applause in 1 second. No sleep, no I think we're counting down. Stand up, no stand up, we'll make mistakes. Stand up, alright, stay happy always. My Fanta tastes like an awesome ride.
My Fanta tastes like catching the biggest air. My Fanta tastes like
fantastic. So what does Fanta taste like to you?
Grab your Fanta flavor today. You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you choose information.
Alright, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. The 8th National Assembly, since its inauguration on the 9th of June, has embarked on recess at different times. Well, as the legislators proceed on another recess, our correspondent Shehu Guli gives a chronology of various recesses embarked upon by the lawmakers since, of course, they came in on the 9th of June, and what implication this has in terms of their assignments.
In liberal democracies, the legislative arm of government plays critical role in smooth running of government. The responsibility of enactment of laws and oversight rests on this arm of government. The National Assembly, however, has embarked on recess at different times since its inauguration in June this year. 10th of June, a day after its inauguration, the legislators embarked on their first recess, which lasted for 2 weeks. It reconvened on the 23rd of June 2015 and proceeded on yet another recess after 3-day sittings. Although expected to reconvene on the 21st of July, but the tussle over the remaining 4 principal offices led to the postponement of the resumption till the 28th of July. And just as many Nigerians thought the lawmakers would settle down for legislative business, they proceeded on another 6 weeks recess. These the legislature described as legitimate annual recess. But then, how legal an earlier recess is a question some Nigerians are asking.
They go on this yearly recess every year, so it's like what's due to them. By the time they go to recess earlier, I think they had a clash and they need to go and sort it out amongst themselves.
I think the National Assembly members should sit up and let us get the benefit of democracy. And
do what is expected of them as is enshrined in the Constitution.
The legislature have so far held 14 plenary sittings since its inauguration on the 9th of June this year. This development has been generating discourse among political watchers, and some of them are asking questions on whether the incessant recess will not affect the critical performance of the legislature and meeting their constitutional 181 number of plenary sittings.
When they come back, I think they have to work for longer time now, because they don't sit on Mondays, they don't sit on Fridays, only Tuesday to Thursday. So I think they have to sit on Mondays now to Friday before they go, so that they can meet up the number of days they have to sit per year as stipulated in the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Alright, we want to thank Shinwo Gunuyu for that background. We are now being joined by Senator Mao Uwabunwa, representing Abia North Senatorial District in the 8th Senate. Distinguished Senator, thank you very much for joining us.
A pleasure. Good morning.
And also with us here in the Abuja studio is a member of the 8th House of Representatives, and he is Honorable Sani Joe, is Chairman, House Ad-hoc Committee on Media and Public Affairs. Honorable Joe, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria. All right, we also have other guests joining us from network centers. First, let's welcome at this time from Benin Network Center, Dr. Azaya Osifo is a political scientist, and at some point he was Chief of Staff to the Governor of Edo State. Dr. Osifo, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Yeah. From our Port Harcourt Network Center, we are having joined us now a legal practitioner, Nini Wilson-Jack. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria. We understand that, we'll be joined later by our Port Harcourt guest. In the meantime, what you can see on the split screen, the right-hand side of the split screen, is the guest joining us from our Ibadan Network Center. I would like to welcome you. He's a lecturer in the Department of Political Science, Dr. Stephen Lafenwa. He joins us now from the Department of Political Science and at our Ibadan Network Center. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Welcome and Good Morning Nigeria.
Well, fire the first shot.
All right, let me start with the distinguished gentleman here, honorable member and of course distinguished senator, right here in our studio. Some people are saying, oh la la, we need a change in the 8th National Assembly. With the way you guys are going on research, you may end up not, passing any bills. What is happening? Let's start with the distinguished senator.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank Nigerians. It shows that democracy is evolving, because I'm happy with the level of engagement, monitoring your elected ones, what is happening, what are they doing, what they are supposed to do. And that is what democracy is all about. But why we do that, like somebody talked about, we are a body constituted by the Constitution, and there are requirements, constitutional requirements, and we must sit for 180 days. And I want to assure Nigerians that definitely we will not shy away from our responsibilities. We will make sure that we meet the constitutional requirement. But I also want them to understand that in every legislature, the beginning of a 4-year term will always have this, I won't call it hiccup, but what we call incessant recesses. First and foremost, after inauguration, by right, members are supposed to go on 2 weeks recess. You go back because it comes from different places. You came in for inauguration, you need to go back, pack your bag and baggages, come fully to report for duties in Abuja. Some of us never lived in Abuja before. Some didn't even know where Abuja, but this opportunity for you to go. So you need to go back. That is normal. I'm just telling you. Then, the annual recess, which is what is happening now, is in the parliamentary calendar. It's our annual calendar, the annual vacation. So we go. What the only difference was that we had a 1 month recess, like you said, after 23rd, we were to resume 2 weeks. We resumed 2 weeks after. But when we came back, because within that 2 weeks, the bureaucracy, that is the management, we are supposed to put everything in order, offices, working tools and all that. But unfortunately, when we came back, we found out the offices were not ready, and several other things to enable us move on. And we said we'd go for 2 weeks again. But unfortunately, we found out that after 2 weeks, look at Salah, people need to go formula and all that. We decided to combine all that. That is actually the only one somebody could say we went on a research that was not planned, that was not in the calendar. But this one is our annual vacation that is there in the national parliamentary calendar. And what I'm saying is that with that, as we resume, we find out that this will not be an issue anymore. We definitely move on and do our legislative duties.
Okay, distinguished Senator Mao, thank you for your explanation. But let's get on to the member in the House here. Honorable member, 14 plenary days, 12 weeks of recess, no bill. What's happening?
Let me say I concur completely with what my distinguished senator and brother has already explained. Secondly, it's very interesting. This is an opportunity actually to engage with Nigerians and offer explanations as transparently as possible, so that we will clear some misunderstandings, that have occupied the public space. To illustrate what distinguished senator has said, I want to also give you comparative analysis so that we can break down the issues and we can understand where we are coming from. Now, there are 3 arms of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial, like everybody knows. Take the judicial arm of government. As I explain this issue, they are on a 3-month recess. All the courts all over the country, from high courts up to Supreme Court, that is their own calendar, because they are a separate arm of government, and therefore they design their own calendar. It is during these 3 months that they will go on annual vacation, go for training, go for all sorts of things. Now, in the case of the legislative arm, it's also very interesting, like someone observed when he was being interviewed earlier, that we sit for only 3 days in a week, between Tuesdays and Thursdays. Now, all over the world, if you do comparative analysis, you will discover that in different jurisdictions, substantially almost 90% of legislative arms in all countries sit for between 3 and 4 hours. And of course not up to the 5 days like in Nigeria, which the executive maintains. Why is this so? This is so because substantial part of legislative duties are done under the committee system. About 80% of the activities are conducted under committee and oversight functions. Now, these 3 days are days reserved for taking petitions from constituents, deliberations in a transparent manner that will be tracked and covered by the public, by the press, and whosoever. As you know very well, there are public galleries, in the 2 legislative arms, and so on and so forth. Now, the executive also has its own system. It conducts its own affairs, it regulates its own affairs for 5 days between Mondays and Fridays, and this is the hour of work. That is the executive arm of government. Now, as for the number of days that we have so far spent, I want Nigerians to relax. I can assure you that not only we will meet the constitutional calendar of 180 days, but within these few weeks that we have sat, we have achieved a lot. And in the course of this program, if time permits, we are going to roll out the issues we have tackled. And I'm sure at the end of the day, Nigerians will actually commend, or they will realize that the National Assembly, at least the 2 chambers, have actually delivered upfront.
Thank you for doing something like that.
Well, Honorable Shane Zoro, by the way, for the benefit of some of our viewers who may not know, is the President of the Nigerian Union of Journalists. Honorable Senator Zuro, while you were responding to the question asked by my colleague, you did say that, the judiciary has its own calendar and therefore seeking justification for what is happening in the legislative arm. What is the calendar of the executive with regards to frequent vacations?
The executive, for instance, probably if you are in the executive bureaucracy, you are entitled to 20 days annual leave. Maybe the president is entitled to much more or probably less. But the presidency and the bureaucracy, the point I'm trying to make is that they regulate their own conduct. They are free constitutionally to do that. For instance, to set their own hours of work. Just like in corporate organizations in the private sector, you discover that you report at 8 o'clock and actually leave office at 5 o'clock. But in the case of the executive arm, it is a minimum or maximum of 8 hours of work. In our own case, like I have explained, it is 3 hours between 11 o'clock and 2 o'clock. That is for the House of Representatives. Now, the other issues also have to do with the nature of our functions and entitlements. These also differ from one institution to another. It's very interesting that Nigerians actually do not know the remuneration packages of judges and other judicial officers. And we are happy that the National Assembly has provided the platform. We are ready to be used as guinea pigs actually to know how much the legislators earn in this country. We are very ready because we are conscious of our duties and responsibilities as representatives of the people who conduct their affairs in the most transparent and accountable manner of all the three arms of government. I say this, let me just say, maybe defend what I'm saying. About 80% actually of our duties, of our conduct are actually done in a transparent manner. All the plenary sessions, like I have said, are open to the public. All the oversight functions, civil society organizations and their representatives are involved. Committee sittings, public hearings, and so on. So you discover that in fact up to 90% in some estimates are done transparently, and that is why it is attracting such debates. People know what's happening and they want to know more. But in closed arms of government, like the judicial arm of government, you can only go to the court and attend a court session. But other procedures and systems are probably not as transparent, because of their own peculiar nature of conducting their activities. The executive arm, if for instance, take the weekly Federal Executive Council meeting, members of the press are just allowed to go and cover the opening ceremonies. That's all. You leave. The president, presides, and it is at the end of the session that probably a minister or two will be asked to address the press and Nigerians by that extension of what they want you to hear. But in the case of the National Assembly, except for executive sessions, all other appearances, are open to the public, and that is why we are generating such interest, and we are very happy, like, my distinguished brother said, that we are open, to scrutiny and interrogation.
Very much, Honorable Sani Zuro, but the question I asked, of course, is still lingering, and namely, how do you justify what you're doing when you see what's going on in the executive branch? And I'm sure that our viewers will have their own takeaways from what you have said. Let's go back. We introduced our guest earlier at the various network centers. But before we go over first to Benin, I would like Senator Mao Habuwa to respond to this. And this is just one other aspect. The Nigerians are concerned, because they ordinarily would like to see the lawmakers at work. You both have explained that yes, a lot of our work goes on at committee stages. You only have ad hoc committees. You don't have your standing committees yet. And still, we're having this frequent absences, as it were.
Yeah, first and foremost, I want to thank my colleague, my brother Zoe, for going a little bit in depth and the comparative analysis. He said I didn't want to go that route. But I want to make it clear, just that I'm here now, the Senate or the National Assembly is supposed to be on recess. As I speak to you, the Committee on Ethics, Privileges, and me right now, I say they'll meet by 9. I'm in the ad hoc committee for looking at the energy, the unbundling of the power sector. We are meeting tomorrow by 9 a.m. You see, the difference between the legislature and other arms of government is that what people call sitting is just the plenary, and which for me is just about 30% of the duties of the parliament. Like you say, most of the function, most of the jobs are done behind the scenes, either the committee levels and all that. For somebody to say we sit only Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday is just lack of knowledge what we do at the parliamentary level. There are days you call, every Monday by right is what we call our constituency days, because you have a constituency office. One day in a week you are supposed to be at your constituency office where your constituents can reach you, talk with you, relate with you. Most of us now will say we are on recess, we are back at the constituency holding constituency meetings. So and for somebody to say no bills or no motions, personally I've moved 2 motions on the floor. My bill on cancer treatment, the establishment of cancer treatment center, had been read first reading, and several other bills. And these bills, you don't just as you read them, you go into second reading. No, there are other processes they will go. Now, after first reading, it will go back to the bill department of the National Assembly, which is the management. They will assess them and do other things before they will bring it back to the floor. So what I'm saying, the parliament is working. What people call not sitting or sitting is just the plenary, which is if you spend about 4 or 5 hours a day. And we have no time limit. We have said the executive, you work from 8 to 4, 5 as the case may be, and even talk about what do you call it, overtime. There's no overtime for the parliament. You work as you come in, you after plenary, you go for committees and all that, at times to 8, 9 p.m. So I just want Nigerians to understand that plenary, yes, is part of our response, part of our functions, but that is just about 30% of the job of the parliament. I just want to make this point very, very clear, and to say that there are no bills. Bills are on. You don't bring bill today and it becomes an art.
I'm sorry, let's so that we can properly contextualize this conversation.
Yes.
If the lawmakers are still working, why then announce that we are proceeding on recess? What is the meaning of going on recess?
Yes, proceeding on this recess is that first and foremost, there is suspension of plenary session. Secondly, when you finish your committee work, you're free to have the time to yourself. Just like you talk about the executive, you have the annual vacation or the annual holidays, we call it 30 days in a month. For this one now, this is our vacation. This is annual vacation according to parliamentary timetable. Like I've explained to you, why it looks as if there is this incessant process is because check your record. At the beginning of after every 4 years, one, as you resume, you go on 2 weeks, is on the calendar to get yourself in. The only thing different is just that last 1 month. Like I've explained, we came back, things were not set. 2, to be honest, the APC leadership had some issues to sort out because it was about the leadership of APC, not mainly the National Assembly. There was no crisis, but they needed to sort out. So you need to give them time to sort out that leadership problem, and which you can see to a large extent has been sorted out.
Right, distinguished Senator, thank you for your explanation. We get back to our Benin Network Center. Dr. Osifo, you've listened to the 2 lawmakers rationalize the fairly frequent recesses, but Senator Owamowa has said that he, of course, has initiated 1 or 2 bills to his credit, but that said, the much we know. As far as the record, is now, we have no bills, 14 plenary days, 12 weeks of recess. Does that signify the change in National Assembly that is alive to the mantra change that, of course, endeared it to these people. Are we seeing any change in this assembly?
Well, thank you very much. It is true that the Senate and the House of Representatives have the constitutional right to regulate its own internal procedure, which includes the procedure for recess. But this right and procedure for recess is not without limitations. Hence, we have a provision in Section 63 of the Constitution that stipulates that the Senate and the House of Representatives must sit for a period not less than 181 days in a legislative year. By implication, which means between June 2015 and May 2016, the Senate of Nigeria and the House of Representatives are expected to sit for a period of not less than 181 days. The missing link here is the political culture, which by implication is if the NTA or the Navy of Nigeria has not brought to the fore this discussion of this issues and research, the National Assembly now have that consciousness that they are accountable to the people of Nigeria. The explanation of the distinguished senator and the House of Representatives also have been put sufficiently forward to Nigerians to explain the background factors that are responsible for this exercise research. That it did not do, and it is, of course, is a definition of the political culture. The other aspect is there is this not understanding of the inevitable synergy between the legislative arm of government and the executive arm of government. If you like, yes, we have a theory of separation of power, but government is symmetrical in terms of relationship. In the respect of the functions of the National Assembly, they must agree with the fact that they cannot have a smooth running without a constant and clear and consistent and active relationship with the executive arm of government. What is the implication of this? If the executive is not linked into the functions of the National Assembly, they may run into the problem of having non-agenda, and that can lead to legislative truancy. Now, the legislative arm of government, again arising from the political culture, must have a clear definition of a legislative agenda that Nigerians are aware of, and agree to give a robust discussion that can create a participant culture. That is to say, what they do in Parliament must be constantly known to Nigerians, and Nigeria must be brought to what they are doing, so that they will have this active relationship between the Parliament and those that they represent. That is lacking, and that suggests that right now the National Assembly has not been able to define a clear legislative agenda that can actively engage them so that Nigerians can tolerate their research. So far they have the right to create that research, but the reason why it's becoming an anxiety now is because Nigerians have not seen an active legislative agenda definitively as to address this issue of change. And they need to admit that the executive has to play a role, because if the executive is not coming with an agenda for the legislative arm of government, they are going to have a non-legislative agenda, and this is capable of creating legislative truancy. And to quickly add that in most cases when Nigerians are brought to this kind of issues to defend your responsibility, sometimes we make a comparative analysis that is not really important to the issue at stake. I do not see the relationship of the judiciary and the institutional respect of the legislative arm of government. Because if you talk of judiciary, yes, they go on respect, but they have vacation judges. So to me, that analysis is not really relevant to this issue. Rather, the National Assembly must live up to their responsibility to appreciate the fact that yes, they have their internal wranglings, yes, they have their internal inadequacies, apartment or accommodation. These ought to have been explained to Nigerians why they have this institutional respect. Yes, discreetly they do not want to be too vocal as to the internal inadequacies, but I believe that the lack of this legislative activity arising from this National Assembly is a result of one, no robust definitive legislative agenda, and two, there seems to be this suspect lacuna or lack of synergy between the executive arm of government and the Parliament of Nigeria.
Right, Dr. Azar Sufe, regular from the Benin Network Center. Then at the Benin Network Center, Dr. Stephen Lafenwa, you've listened to the other three guests on the program. What are your opening remarks on this subject?
Thank you very much. One thing that is very, very clear, from what they have said, is that we don't have proper and effective communication
education what information dissemination mechanism, because I don't think the calendar of the legislature is a confidential information that they should not, that will not be open to Nigerians, because right from the inception of this new regime, many Nigerians have been expecting more from the government. And when you talk about, a government, we are talking about the total sum of legislative, executive, and judicial activities. And to me, the legislature is very, very critical, because it is, an engine of democracy. That is, the institution that represents the people's work interest. And when you talk about, incessant work recesses, about the from this National Assembly, you discover that people are expecting much. They don't, really want to know what you are doing. They want results. And results cannot come if you are not ready to make sacrifice. I can agree with them that, okay, the first recess was legal, and that is, conventional according to their rules in the legislature, and the other one they are doing now. But what of the 1 month, they use to settle, our party what, issues, and other leadership what, issues. They have to make up for that 1 month, so that Nigeria will be able to know that, these, set of legislators, they are ready for business. Because everybody, is now, shifting focus, attention, to the executive. I don't want the legislator to, allow Nigerians, to continue, the business as usual, focusing only on the executive work, a arm of government, not, really what, paying attention to what the legislators are doing in their hallowed chambers. And as they rightly said, the legislative duties are not restricted to the chambers, both at the national, at the Senate and the House of Reps. In fact, to me, and it has been established that committees, are in session is the legislature at work. So I want, them to be, more preoccupied with committee work this. And this time around that they are going on another research, they should make sure that whatever that they require, to improve what they are doing in Abuja, should be able to work, get them, inputs from the people, interest groups, citizens, concerned citizens, and talking about relating with political parties. Because this time around, I'm really surprised with the kind of a crisis that have been generated in the National Assembly. We're talking about issue of taking principal position, juicy position. I don't think any position should be considered as juicy. All of them are the same, because they are there, they are elected, to represent the people, to carry out oversight functions, and to make a law that will better the lot of Nigeria. So they should not focus on the positions, that they are occupying, on the kind of the committee that they are working in. They should be working, they should be interested in, issues that will move Nigeria forward and will better the lot of Nigerians. So as they are going on research, and as our senator has said they are going to be, meeting with their constituent members, let them discuss with critical stakeholders, those who that can give them what, informed, input that will help them, in making, laws that will, help Nigerians, to really explain the things that all of us have been, have been waiting for. Because
Dr. Laffen was speaking to us from the Ibadan Network Center. Let's return to the Abuja studios. Gentlemen, that's distinguished Senator Honorable Sani Zuru. You've listened to the comments expressed by the other guests at our network centers. And one issue that emerges from this is the need to clarify precisely, what the National Assembly is doing and why it is doing this. And I would like you, gentlemen, to respond to this. You say that what you are proceeding on now is annual recess, and it's part of your calendar. I'm sure that the average Nigerian will be wondering, look, if you employ a staff in June, in August, the staff walks up to you and says that he or she wants to go on annual leave. What would be your reaction?
Yeah, you see, first and foremost, like I said earlier, I want to thank Nigerians again. But the issue is about engagement. They talked about legislative agenda, legislative calendar. I'm not the spokesman for the Senate, neither am I the spokesman for the National Assembly. Luckily, my brother Zoro is presently the spokesman for the House of Representatives. But I agree in total completely with the observations made, because part of it is that there is this perception, and we have refused to engage with the people. That is even why when we talk about jumbo pay, billions and all that, it's because we've not engaged with Nigerians to explain what happens in the parliament, especially as regards our agenda, our salaries, our payment and all that. Those people sit down, they say, okay, you've budgeted 120 billion to the National Assembly this year. They look at how many senators, how many members of the House of Reps, 109, 360, 469. They laterally divide it by, divide 120 billion by 460, and they believe that's what you take home. They forget that in that budget, you have about 5 legs. You have the National Assembly, management, which is like a ministry. You have people at the level of federal permanent secretary and all that. You have directors, other about 5,000 workers. You have the Senate itself, that is as senators. You have the House of Reps. You have the National Legislative Institute. You have the National Service Commission. You have
various heads of expenditure.
So it's because we've refused to engage with the people, to remain with them, for them to understand the functions of the parliament and these different subheads. So as regards to our program, I agree with them. If they had known that, yes, every year or at the beginning of every 4 years, you have 2 weeks, which is your constitutional conventional break. Then you have this one, the 6 weeks annual vacation and all that. I think they can agree, they will fit in, they will accept it, just because they just sit down and wake up and hear the National Assembly is going on. They say they begin to wonder, hey, what is happening? Why are we doing all this? But what I'm saying is that
I'm sorry to interject so that we come to the issue for purposes of clarification.
Yes.
Might the National Assembly not say, look, in the first legislative year, we will not take an annual vacation, which comes, barely 8 weeks after our
that's where I want to come. But that will disorient, that will disorganize the system, because there's an annual program. If you leave this 6 weeks and you take it, which means you will still come back to take vacation at a different time, which might not be convenient. Because part of the reasons why we go on, as I said, after now, the budget will come. The budget will come. And if you don't now, other things will come up. Bills are coming in now, like I said, first reading. By the time you get to second reading, by the time you form committees, you commit these bills to committees, and the committees will begin to work. Before budget, you have oversight function. So it's so planned in a way that it will be convenient, and it will be an auto drive, it will run itself. The only difference is that we have refused, maybe the Public Affairs Committee, I refused to engage with Nigerians. I was in the House of Reps for 8 years. I was a leader, and I know that if you put this program to Nigerians, they will appreciate it, even if it requires a debate. Why not? But all I'm saying is that maybe because we are starting anew, maybe because there's a new government that is coming with a change, maybe the change has not been properly situated yet. But when we state it rightly, maybe people will begin to flow with us and understand what we are doing. But like I say, Zoe, as the man at the helm of affairs, that will explain more and what we intend to do, at least to ensure that we carry Nigerians.
Zero, take it from there.
Yes. So that
with the input provided so far in this program, especially about the 2 dogs, one from Benin and the other from Ibadan. You see, they have captured the issue. The issue is that of communicating and engaging with the Nigerian public in order to purely explain these issues. Now, let me just say, at the fear of being seen to be on the defensive, I just want to further illuminate. Just like in the same manner my brother the Don from Benin says, that while judges are on vacation, there are vacation judges. So it is also with the National Assembly. Now that we are on recess, I can assure you that myself, having been introduced as chair of the Ad hoc Committee on Media and Public Affairs, I'm on ground. Distinguished now is on ground. So many of us are meant to Nigerians are not in Dubai or South Africa or London. We are on ground. So many have gone for constituency tours. After this program, I am off to my constituency also for a planned constituency tour. Now, that is just by the way. Secondly, let me come to this, for instance.
It's your prerogative.
It's mandatory. It's part of what you should do, actually. Now, let me also come to this. 35 bills have been initiated and uploaded during plenary, within these weeks that we have had. Specifically on Wednesday, a day before we went to recess, 14 were uploaded, and then the rest 21 the following day. Now, like my brother, the distinguished senator, had also said, there are procedures. First of all, after the first reading, then they have to be gazetted. Then after gazetting, you subject them to second reading. But then it is also mandatory that after the second reading, you must refer them immediately to standing committees. And these standing committees are not in place. So we cannot truncate the process. But upon our return now, the selection committees have been constituted in both chambers. And by the time we will resume, committees will be in place. And I completely agree and actually thank the observation by the Don from Ibadan that there, for us in the 8th National Assembly, especially under the leadership of Honorable Yakubu Dogara in the House of Representatives, there are no juicy, no dry committees. All committees are important. That's one. Second, let's come also to the issue of what we have performed, which people are not aware of. It will interest Nigerians, for instance, to know that in conjunction with the Law Reform Commission and the Committee on Bills and Procedures of Business and Rules of the House, we have empaneled a committee that is reviewing Nigerian laws in their entirety. There are 4 subcommittees that have been constituted so far. It will interest Nigerians to know that one of the subcommittees, which deals with corporate laws, is already working on reviewing 400 laws. 400 laws. Criminal laws, 199 of them are being reviewed. And then the other 2 subcommittees also have more than 500 laws that are being reviewed as we speak. Which means about 1,000 laws are being reviewed as we go on recess by the committees. This is one. Secondly, the legislative agenda that also the Don has is very, very good. I can assure Nigerians that the outcome of the committee empaneled to do the needs assessment of the legislature is going to provide a lasting solution. It's going to address all these issues that Nigerians have been debating. The funding of the National Assembly, as well as these incessant or frequent holidays. By the way, Kingsley, I don't know, maybe you are a better grammarian. If people go on holiday 3 times, is this what qualifies it to be called incessant or frequent? But that is just by the way. Now let me just highlight certain issues about the legislative agenda. This is a vision agenda that was initiated by the Speaker of the House of Representatives, and I'm sure a lot of Nigerians who view the live coverage of the House, who are also tuned to the press, have read so much about it. But I'm telling you that in terms of coverage of the importance and analysis of the significance of this agenda, probably the Nigerian media has not done 10% of what they should have communicated. What do I mean? This vision document is supposed to provide a roadmap
and actually street maps of how we intend to improve our systems, the funding of these systems. But most remarkably, taking into account the protestations of Nigerians, all the sentiments being expressed about remuneration packages and running cost of the National Assembly, in the wisdom of the Honorable House of Representatives, we decided to invite civil society organizations led by people of integrity, activists who are known to protect the rights of Nigerians. They have been functioning as watchdogs of Nigerians, engaging with all issues of the day. Now, let me just land, because this is very important.
Just to respond very briefly, Honorable Sani Zuru, we'll come back to you in the course of this conversation. You raised the point. Incessant makes something happening frequently. If you're on leave in June, in July, and August, or September, that's frequent. Clear.
All right, let's get to Dr. Lafenwa in Ibadan. Dr. Lafenwa, I'm sure you heard when Honorable Sani Zuru said that the National Assembly, that's talking about the House and the Senate, will meet up with the mandatory 181 days required of them. Now, mind you, they still have the Salah break, they have the Christmas break, they have New Year break, and God knows what nature might throw in their way again that might warrant another break. So, in the view of the enormous task ahead of them, if you look at the legislative agenda that the House of Reps have come up with, they have quite a duty to do. How do you think they might, achieve the 181 days, not just achieving it, but also meeting, the yearnings of Nigerians for a change?
I said it earlier that it's not, to me, I'm not concerned about the number of days, but I'm concerned about the results. The performance at the end of the day. Because now that Nigerians are expecting, that the government of the day, should deliver, dividend of democracy. They are expecting constant electricity. They are, talking about, solving the problem of Boko Haram, and talking about poverty, unemployment. These are some of the things that they should focus on. And concerning how they are going to make up is about sacrifice. Now that we are trying to do it differently in Nigeria, all of us should take it upon ourselves that this is a period for us to make sacrifice. I want to enjoy, our legislators, that they have started very well, but they should not, relent in their effort, because the way President Buhari is moving, is as if they want to solve the problem at once, and they should support him. And in supporting him, they need, informed input from Nigerians. They should not just think that, deliberating at the plenary session, sitting, having discussion at the committee meetings, will really work, do a lot. They need to engage, as I have said. I want them to make good use of the vacation they are now, they are embarking on now. That they should meet with people that will really work, help them, do the work effectively. Because it is very, very, clear that the 7th Assembly in Nigeria, people have said it and identified so many factors, that really work, that cause the non-performance of the 7th Assembly. So they should study those factors and try to really, strategize how to, overcome those, factors and, and make sure that they move ahead. As they are coming back from, when they come back from their vacation, they should know that it is, business. And I'm talking about business. Let them, as we have as a friend said, let them roll out the agenda to Nigerians. Let the Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians, be familiar with what they are doing there. I'm not saying that just put the thing on their website. There are there are some mediums that they can use,
for them to pass across, the messages, they have for Nigerians, and the thing that Nigerians want to expect from them. I was discussing with some people, and they were saying that, as far as they are concerned, they are not, really concerned with the legislators. They have business with the executive. I want the legislator to prove them wrong. That the legislator is very, very, very critical, and they can do this by through their performance. Let the people now realize that the importance of the legislator, that is an engine room of our democracy. People should be allowed to voice out whatever their demands through the platform of the legislator, and they should also carry out this oversight function, because the main business now is how we are going to put in check some of those things that have gone wrong in Nigeria.
All right, Dr. Stephen Lafenwa of the Department of Political Science at the University of Ibadan, joining us from our Ibadan Network Center. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and we're looking at our focus this morning is, of course, on the National Assembly, and fairly quickly, how did you describe that? Fairly frequent resources the goods. We'll be right back.
Low antiseptic liquid kill the germs that cause diarrhea, typhoid, HIV type 1, Dettol does. Dettol provides 10 times more protection versus leading competition. Dettol is the #1 selling antiseptic liquid, proven to protect from up to 100 illness-causing germs. So why take a risk with your loved ones? We go from ground to ground, elevated to the sky. I came from nothing to everything, all the way. All the way. I went from nothing to making big, all the way. Can't you see all the beautiful things that are following me all the way? Yeah, and I know if I do it my way, me, I know I will reach to the sky. At Skybank, we have reinvented the world of smart banking to help you find big possibilities. Let's unlock success together, because the sky is big enough for more stars. Skybank. Live smart. Bank on Sky.
Introducing Dettol 175 grams family soap. Buy Dettol family soap for 200 naira and save 50 naira.
Alright, you're watching Good Morning Nigeria, which is reaching you live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We still have 3 guests with us on this conversation this morning from the Benin Network Center. Dr. Azaya Osifo here with us in the Abuja studios, Senator Mao Wambuwa, and also Honorable Sani Zoro. Of course, he chairs the ad hoc committee of the House on Media and Public Affairs. Now we're being joined by another guest from our Ibadan Network, from the Port Harcourt Network Center. We've already signed off the Ibadan guest, but we understand that we're trying to get an uplink with our Port Harcourt Network Center. When we do get that uplink, we'll bring on the guest in the course of this conversation. But let me take the next question now to Dr. Azaya Osifo at our Benin Network Center. Dr. Osifo, the guests with us, the lawmakers in the studios, have indicated some work that is going on, namely the bills that are being considered, the committees, and of course Honorable Sani Zoro did speak about the law reform, and of course that was very well reported. You have a number of distinguished Nigerian law professors and legal practitioners who are involved in that exercise. But here is the point, and I think this has been raised in the course of this conversation. Is the legislator walking along his own track and the executive also walking along his own track? When are we going to see that synergy?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me be categorically stated that the verifiable evidence of the performance of the legislator will only be assessed on a platform of an active and no synergy between the legislative arm of government and the executive arm of government. The legislators constitutionally are empowered to make laws, pass resolutions. These are not resolutions and laws can only be translated into practical achievement of the expression of Nigerians if the executive arm of government or the agencies of the government are brought into the implementation of these resolutions. I agree with the distinguished senator and the honorable member in terms of the internal mechanism and the foundation that they are trying to lay, proposals of these and reforms of the Law Reform Commission and all the other issues in respect of their limitations concerning accommodation and all that. But the point that has to be made is that they must find a way of trying to begin to create the confidence in the minds of Nigerians that yes, the legislative arm of government is vibrant and active arm of government that is meant to energize and drive development must only be done by way of integrating and involving Nigerians in what they do. And that again can help in the definition or classification of the level of political culture of Nigeria. But however, irrespective of what they are doing in terms of their interlocking mechanism, the practicality or the personalization, if you like, identifying the achievements of these functions of the arm of government cannot be achieved without active and responsible relationship with the executive arm of government. And Nigerians will equally be made to know that in this so-called partial inadequacy that we are now observing as a result of their institutional research, the executive arm of government cannot be excluded from it because the non-active engagement of this National Assembly at this initial stage with the executive arm of government is one of the factors that is responsible for this inactivity or inaction or incessant research of the parliament. So our recommendation is that this National Assembly must be conscious of the fact that apart from the making of laws and the internal mechanism, they must create a platform, they must create a structure, a framework to have active engagement and synergy with the executive arm of government, because that is the only tool by which the achievements can be measured and can be verified by Nigerians.
Please go ahead.
Let's sign off Dr. Isaiah Osifo. We're thanking him for his contributions to our conversation this morning. Dr. Osifo, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and that's this time we are introducing now Mimi Wilson-Jack. He's a legal practitioner and is joining us from our Port Harcourt Network studio. Barrister Jack, welcome to the program.
Very much. Good morning.
Let's just pick up from where we left off a moment ago. Two cardinal points now. The legislative agenda, which remains to a large extent opaque, shall I say, and the fact that the lawmakers are traveling on their own track, and the executive is also traveling on his own track. When are we going to see the interconnectedness that is vital to the achievement of the goals and objectives of the administration?
Well, thank you very much, and it's a pity we missed out on the earlier side of the discussion, which has to do with the time for sittings. And if you just allow me to weigh in on that before I go to the question itself, just to say that the National Assembly needs to be very cautious in the number of days it proceeds on leave or vacation, whatever it is called. They actually have just 89 days to play with. 89 days when you take out the weekends, the mandatory days, and the statutory 30 days vacation will give you about 50 days. So they stand a chance. Things can't be the same. Where there is change in the air, and I won't be surprised if one of these days somebody takes out a suit to say that the assembly should stand dissolved. So it is not a defense to say that our legislative calendar says. Legislative calendar is made by them, so they cannot use it to justify something that has gone on for 16 years. And I think it's time we sit up. In the public service, the vacations come at the end of the year, and we have taken into consideration in fixing 181 days and their pay. We've taken into consideration the amount of work they do. So the National Assembly is not an 8 to 5 p.m. type of job. No. So it's not an excuse to say that you work beyond the civil service. If you want a civil service, we'll pay you as civil servants. In terms of the relationship and the synergy, I've read through the House of Representatives draft legislative agenda. The Senate is here to give us something, but it's obvious, it's obvious to we the people on this side of the divide that legislative agenda was drawn up without the executive arm of government. So the fight against corruption gets just about one or two sentences in a paragraph as matters on which they will legislate. You would think therefore that since that is the focus of the executive, there will be a real statement as to the direction of legislation to say that this legislative assembly will do X, Y, Z to the anti-corruption legislation in order to achieve this type of result. It is not enough to just reel out a number of issues on which the National Assembly intends to make laws. That is what they are there to do. They are to make laws on a number of issues. So repeating in a statement written in beautiful English language that you are going to make laws on those issues leads to nothing. You must say where you are going and what you want to achieve. And you will find that the legislative agenda they have released at this time actually focuses 50% on internal workings and mechanisms. They want to strengthen committee system, they want to justify the pay and the rest of it. Frankly speaking, that is not a legislative agenda. Those are administrative matters within the system. But perhaps what has gone wrong is that we have been addressing symptoms and not the fundamentals. And the fundamental in this case, whether it is for sitting, for pay, for allowances, is the fact that one, we don't have a transition act or a transition law. Because if you do have a transition act, then before the members of the National Assembly come into office, after being elected, their offices will be ready for work to start. They don't have to come and decide, to find the offices have no chairs or tables. Alright? So again, if we run on a manifesto, on a platform, then you will even find that before you become come into leadership position in the National Assembly, you will have bargained with people. Look, if you make me the President of Senate, this is my focus, and I think you are the man or the woman that will lead my Public Services Committee. Alright, we didn't do all that, and so you find that even after election, we are unable to constitute committees. So the time frame between being elected and being sworn in has been lost completely. And we are just like newly enrolled students in a school who have to start from the ground level. So I think that we need a lot of cooperation. I've always complained that the members of the National Assembly see themselves as different from the executive. Let us be reminded that this government, any government, is made up of three arms. The National Assembly, the state assemblies, the legislature as a whole are part of a bigger government. So they cannot run independently of the executive or the judiciary. And it is time they sit down and get to work, and so that we can stop complaining, because we've been talking about the same issue. This is the 17th year of this democracy, so nothing should take us by surprise anymore.
All right, Barrister Mini Wilson Jack, a legal practitioner, joining us from Lagos. I would have loved to ask you a final question. I'd appreciate it if you be very brief on it. Of course, the honourable member here speaking in his capacity as, of course, the ad hoc chairman, House ad hoc committee on media and publicity, has assured that the National Assembly will meet up with the mandatory required days. How it hopes to do that, we're not sure. I'm wondering if you might prefer a solution how they can achieve that.
I would suggest members of National Assembly, of course, can regulate their own business, but they should always bear in mind the 181 days. It's sacrosanct unless they will amend the Constitution, and then they can't work on weekends. You can't make laws and sign laws on weekends. It should be important too. So one would think that they should really come back and get to work. It is better to be at work and then there are no laws to pass. Okay? But there are definitely a lot of laws. The member has talked about a review of 1,000 laws. A review of 1,000 laws, with due respect, will not be achieved in 4 years. So even if they just settle down to reviewing the existing laws in Nigeria, many of which ought to be reviewed, there's enough work to be done.
And the earlier, my suggestion to them, they can always reject it if they want, is that they need to get back to Abuja and begin to work. There are so many things wrong with the system that need to be fixed. Even if they just have to hold 1 month, 3 months of public hearing to hear all our grievances, I'm sure they will come out with better laws than going home, this business of being on vacation.
Barrister Dimi Wilson-Jack joining us from our Port Harcourt Network Center. A very brief moment that we've had with you. Of course, we've enjoyed your contributions this morning. Thank you for coming along.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now let's take the two lawmakers we have with us still in the Abuja studios. And gentlemen, this will be very brief. Speaking, of course, you've heard the remarks made by the other guests with respect to the legislative agenda, draft legislative agenda that has been put out. But Nigerians are also concerned about a number of activities or a number of issues or developments that are of national significance. In these matters, the voice of the National Assembly has been virtually silent. I'll give you just 2 examples. The states, a number of states were faced with a huge challenge of paying salaries of workers. The federal government organized some bailout. Nobody heard the voice of the National Assembly in this matter, or the National Assembly made no contribution. And now, agencies, some agencies of government, they are having their accounts being audited. And this, of course, an initiative being taken by the National Economic Council. Again, these are agencies ordinarily oversighted by the National Assembly. What is the role of the National Assembly? Who is going to pay the auditors? These are the issues that Nigerians think that ought to be taken up, because they are issues of moment. But if you're on leave, when do you handle those matters?
Well, first and foremost, let me make it clear that I agree that there are 3 arms of government, slightly independent, but our functions are complementary. We need to work together for this country to move. Independence in this matter does not mean we can do without the executive, or the executive can do without the parliament. We all have to work together to move the country forward. And having said that, every issue, as far as this government is concerned, definitely is on the front burner for the parliament. You talk about corruption. We've been talking about corruption. We have already acts. We have the independent corrupt ICPC law. We have the EFCC law. It's just for the executive and the judiciary to have the willpower to implement and execute. We don't need to go back. If you read those acts, they are acts and in order to handle every issue on corruption. So what we are saying, when somebody says we brought out a legislative calendar without talking about corruption, that is not true. It's already there, and there is not much. But if the executive thinks there are amendments to be made, they send it to the National Assembly. Definitely we amend them, to suit whatever they want to do. There is no saying the fact that the expectations are quite high. Nigerians are expecting so much, especially in the new government. We are aware of that, and that's why we are doing everything within our powers to meet up the time. If they said definitely we're going to meet the time prescribed in the Constitution, so we're going to work hard, and we're definitely working very hard to get that done. You talked about...
I talked about some burning national areas.
Yes.
Maybe you skip those ones.
I don't want to skip those.
Yeah, there are 2 issues.
Yeah.
One, the bailout for...
Yes, fine.
And then also the audit of agencies normally oversighted by the
audit. These are out of the responses of the National Assembly from the Public Accounts Committee. That's what actually we raised the alarm, and that's why you see this committee. And definitely they are going to come back to the Public Accounts Committee. We found out because of that, before we went on recess, the Public Accounts Committee, not ad hoc, which is a special committee, was set up in the Senate, particularly the chairman Orandi. We set up that committee so that they will work hand in hand, they will work together with the executive. That is there. For in terms of payment, definitely we will appropriate, because the power of the purse is with the parliament. We will appropriate time to pay the auditors and all that. That is quite there. So we are not said as regards bailout. I keep saying there is no bailout. What happened was that government or the executive is like giving you an advance payment, the LNG funds that should be part of the consolidated revenue fund, part of the FAC. But because these states are in trouble, they decided to give them in advance. Bailout cannot come without the parliament.
All right, so
Bailout can. So when there is bailout, definitely the executive will make recommendations to the National Assembly and will pass it as a bill before it will go to the states. You don't just bail out because the power, if you look at Constitution, the sections of 80, 83 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you can't just bail out. It has to be by an act of the Parliament. So what I'm saying, we are working together with the executive to ensure that what they did was just to give them advance from facts.
Sorry, quickly, we're running out of time. Distinguished Senator Mao Obabonwa, we would like to thank you for coming on our program, and distinguished Obabonwa is representing Abia North Senatorial District in the 8th Senate. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Finally, we move over to the honorable member in the House, Honorable Zoro. You listen to the three gentlemen from Ibadan, Lagos, and Port Harcourt. They have called for sacrifice from the 8th National Assembly. Are we going forward? Are we going to see 8th National Assembly making more sacrifices in terms of for future, maybe some of your breaks to attend to the pressing needs of Nigerians? Are we going to see that happening?
Thank you very much. Let me seize this opportunity once more to thank all Nigerians that have expressed sensitivity over the conduct of the National Assembly. Second is also to reinforce the point made by my distinguished brother Mao that we see Mr. President, who is the head of the executive arm of government, as a change sponsor, and that we at the National Assembly level are change champions, and therefore we are ready at all times to provide legislative support and reinforcement to whatever the executive whatever the executive agenda is, which calculated to bring about change and development to Nigeria. Now, I'll give you one example. The concern and the electoral promise of Mr. President was about security of lives and property. And to demonstrate that we are championing that agenda, once the President submitted the list of service chiefs to the National Assembly, it was given express treatment. That's one. Secondly, at the fear of overbeating this issue of riches, while thanking Brother Wilson from Port Harcourt, Barrister Wilson, an eminent legal luminary, for his input, but I want to say that please continue to bear with us and also appreciate the little positive impact that we have made. An attempt actually to review and reform 1,000 laws, I don't think it's a mean achievement or a mean effort or an expression of effort, but that is just by the way. Now, secondly, I want you to remember this one.
We've actually eaten into yes our time. I'm afraid I have to stop you at this point. But we do thank you for the explanation and the promise that you have made to Nigerians. We're looking forward to see that, of course, being practicalized. Thank you very much. All right, that was Honorable Sani Zoro, Chairman, House Adult Committee on Media and Public Affairs, speaking to us in Good Morning Nigeria. We'll take a break now.
You are watching NTA, Nigerian Television Authority. For more information and news updates, visit our website at www.nta.ng, or you can follow us on Twitter at NTA News Now, or you can like us on Facebook at NTA Network News. Stay connected on our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/NTA News Online. Watch our live stream at www.nta.ng/live. NTA, you can take the risk.
Alright, and quickly, that does it for today's program. We do thank you for joining us. Tomorrow is another day. The program comes up every Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 in the morning on the network service. My name is Claire Abilabu afterwards. We want to thank all the gentlemen, of course, who have to, of course, speak to us on this important matter.
I'm Kingsley Fabelo. I also joined by thanking our guests, and also, of course, in particular, our viewers for starting the whole day as always with us in the network service of the NTA. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. So have a lovely day.